Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, Patsun, and today we're gonna be taking a look at r/slash relationship advice, where OP finally woke up. Let's begin. Am I the asshole for refusing my daughter a kidney because she said she doesn't care if I'm scared? Posted by Reddit user Throwaway Daughter Kid.
My daughter is suffering from kidney failure. We have been estranged for 3 years, and it was due mainly to the fact that she was taking her health issues, as well as her fights with her dad and stepmom out on me. I spent hundreds of my husband, Ethan, and I's money on making therapy for my daughter, but she has remained bitter and difficult. Ethan and I have 2 kids. I had to give up quite a bit in terms of career prospects due to my first pregnancy. My parents also disowned me. But then Ethan helped me get a degree in accounting and also a real estate license. I have connections from Ethan that are helping me do nearly 6 figures in real estate commissions, and I just joined an accounting firm that hired me based on the client connections I have from Ethan. Now I am working 50-hour weeks but love it because I am finally earning 6 figures, and Ethan's business is also at a place where he can work at home. My daughter at this point was mostly low contact since she turned 18, but now she's back because she needs a kidney. I made the mistake of letting friends know about her situation, and everybody I know from my mommy groups from when my daughter was born started dogpiling on me saying, "You gotta do this, mama," and like I'd be held down to get my kidney. Because of this pressure, despite Ethan saying no, I went to the doctor and found out I was a match. I tried to reach out to my daughter's dad to see if he's a match, but her stepmom had apparently already called her, screaming that her dad was the provider for her and 3 kids, so how dare she ask this of a father. My ex said that his duty was obviously to his wife and minor kids, so no testing for him. And so he and everybody else just wanted to be my kidney. I tried to communicate to my daughter that I'm afraid of surgery. I was too new to take that much time from work, so I'd likely be working while in pain. She replied asking, "Doesn't Ethan make a lot of money?" I told her again how risky surgery was, and she said, echoing my friends, "I don't care, this isn't about you." I was so furious from that conversation that when I went to see the doctor and the doctor asked if somebody was coercing me, I told him that at this point I'd rather die than continue to serve my ungrateful, rude daughter. I said I indeed felt coerced, and if I did it, I'd probably have burning resentment towards the recipient and the doctors if I woke up in pain. The doctor immediately said I am therefore not a compatible donor and that I should never feel like I'm a prisoner. I told my friends and Ethan this, and while Ethan just asked if I was okay and that the boys and him need me, my friends were furious and tried to shame me online with what kind of mother posts. They are insisting I go back and say I was lying and I've changed my mind. To sign something showing I wasn't coerced and get it notarized if it's what it takes. Am I the asshole?
No, OP, you are not the asshole. You shouldn't have shared information with your circle, man. It was your choice, your decision. You didn't need to let anyone know that the lack of compatibility was due to your unwillingness. That is your concern alone. And now for today's second story. My school teacher had an affair with me. Posted by Reddit user Confused17.
Apologies for the throwaway account. This was 10 years ago when I was 16. I was in 11th grade and my physics teacher was an attractive young lady in her early 30s. She managed a few clubs at school and I was very active in some of those. So we used to interact and work together on activities related to those clubs. Slowly we became more like friends who would work past the school hours on stuff and then started texting each other. Sometimes we would stay back at school alone and work on things. Later on, I got invited to her place for fixing things up like electronics or teach her how to use new software, etc. Things slowly escalated and we gave each other names and started texting in a flirty manner, which later turned into sexting. Then when we were at her place, we started being physical. She was married with 2 kids, but was separated, though not legally, from her husband. I have no idea how any of this happened. It almost always felt like I was the one who was pursuing her, making the first moves, coming up with the ideas to get more. I always felt like she went along with it because she didn't want to lose me. This went on for like 3 to 4 years, and then one day, she found somebody else, somebody 6 to 7 years older than me, and she cut me off like I was a nobody. It was rock bottom for me. I didn't have a single person to talk to or seek help from because this was something I couldn't share with anybody. I still haven't to this very day. It never occurred to me that I was just 16 when it all started. I always felt like a grown-up, matured enough to make my own decisions. For months, I was in agony. It wasn't like we had a future or anything. But the betrayal was just so hard. We had a pact that we would let the other person down slowly when we do, but she cut me off abruptly and kept me guessing and worrying for months. It took me a long while to come to peace with it, and even then, it wasn't without damage. I fucked up at least 2 serious relationships over the trauma I had from her. I never really thought like I was being groomed or anything. I always felt like I was the one who caused it all. Then recently I saw the series, A Teacher, and I was blown away by how relatable it was. Except for the fact that our affair got exposed only to a handful of people who wanted to bury it, rather than expose it as it was in the series. I walked away without any real-world damage except for what was going on inside my head. Nobody really took notice when she was gone from my life. The final episode of the series takes a turn and exposes how it was the teacher who created all the situations that lead to everything. That made me rethink. And I could remember how she was the first one to call me by names of endearment, which wasn't normal towards a student, but still appropriate. How she always chose times when her kids won't be around at house to invite me. How she never really said no. How she would talk about her boobs when I was hesitant to visit her after a long time. I blamed myself for being a scum. But now that I think about it, it feels like I was groomed and made to feel like I was matured enough to think about it all as my own decisions. I thought I was at peace, but watching the series brought some of it back. I am fine and I have a strong relationship now. But deep down, there is this big secret that I will probably never tell anyone. When she got divorced after she dropped me, I even thought about myself as a homewrecker. I am still not convinced that I was blameless in any of these. I am not trying to. But when I do go back to my messages from school days, it is incredible how immature I sounded and looked. I will probably never know if I was simply played or if I caused it all or some of it. It fucking sucks being confused. Nobody will ever know. Edit. Thank you so much for all the kind comments of support. I will reply to everything when I am back. It really does feel better to share this here, that too after more than a decade. Thank you everyone. I should have shared earlier.
OP, the scum in this story is your teacher. She took advantage of you. You were just a kid. She should have gone to jail. OP, go find a good therapist and talk to them about what happened and possible steps to move forward. Good luck, man. And now for today's final story. I think my wife is cheating on me. Posted by Reddit user Original Triacle.
Going to start this by saying yes, I know we got married very young. We did think it out as much as we thought we could. Bit a long post, bear with me. I have known my wife since just before high school, so about 6 years now. We started dating in December 2021 and got married towards the end of March 2023. Things were great for the most part and I'm very much in love with her. She entered the military a little while before we were married. While it did have some influence or decision to get married, we had planned to get married whether she enlisted or not. She was stationed overseas and we began the paperwork for me to move there with her. Our first argument started when I noticed some steps were taking longer than others. She admitted she enjoyed being independent for once and wasn't in a rush for me to move over there, so she had been delaying the paperwork. This was about 6 months into the long distance, no visits yet. It kind of hurt that she didn't seem to miss me at all, but I understood. She later agreed to work on the process again without delaying, but it still was and currently is still taking a long time. When she got stationed overseas, she met a new male friend and coworker, let's call him Rick for now. She was good friends with him and a few others. One day, he suddenly messaged me through social media. I was shocked to say the least. He messaged me about how they were such close friends, it's like skin to skin, and how he would take really good care of her for me, give her goodnight kisses and tuck her in. He talked to me about he was going to cross the boundaries of friendship with her and if he wanted to take her, there was nothing I could do about it. It was completely random and despite the obvious intention to provoke me, I was provoked anyways. I immediately took screenshots and showed them to my wife. She didn't seem to think it was a big deal. She asked me what I wanted her to do. I told her I wasn't comfortable with them being friends after this. She didn't take it well and said she didn't want me controlling who she got to be friends with. She still wanted to be his friend and didn't think what he did was a big deal. Rick told my wife he was joking and that's what she believes, and she acts like I'm making a big deal out of it and being controlling. It really bothered me that she seemed to be taking his side with the whole thing. My wife says Rick has a wife and doesn't see her that way and was joking. I don't know who randomly jokes like that with someone they've never talked to before. It certainly was not funny. We had many arguments about it for a while and in the end, I gave an ultimatum although I wasn't happy about it. I've seen ultimatums ruin relationships and didn't want that, but I didn't see any choice. My wife picked me. She became more distant after this, leaving me undelivered more often and being less loving. Eventually, I took back the ultimatum and said she could be his friend with some restrictions in an attempt to fix things. She said it didn't matter and she didn't really need to be his friend again, but might in the future. The small arguments and distant stuff didn't stop after that. After having a long talk with her to try and get to the bottom of it, she told me she loves me but is no longer in love with me. She said it doesn't matter to her whether I stay here in the States or move overseas to her. She said she still wants to stay with me for the rest of our lives and that we would work things out. I agreed. Nothing seemed to change much and I've been hoping it's just the distance. 2 days ago, it has been about 10 months since I last saw her. She told me that her and Rick have started talking again and would likely become friends again. I expressed I was not the happiest about it, but we could talk about some boundaries and restrictions. I also noticed her drinking from a Yeti water bottle I didn't recognize. She admitted it belonged to Rick, but she said she took it months ago and people in the army share water bottles all the time. I have access to her email as we shared email for me to help with some of the military paperwork. Today, I saw an email from Rick. It has his first and last name, so I knew. The only thing in the email was a link. The link was to a sexual enhancement product. A few minutes later, I see some more emails. They are receipt emails from the company of that product. I can see she has bought about $60 worth of sexual enchantment items for both male and female. So Rick sent the link to her and she obviously bought the stuff. I was absolutely heartbroken and unsure what to do. She didn't pick up until about an hour later and I just directly confronted her. My wife tells me that Rick is low on money and needed the stuff and she was just doing him a favor and helping out a friend. She said the stuff is for him and his wife and not her. 3 weeks ago or so, she was telling me Rick had a fight with his wife and Rick's wife left back home for a while, so I know she isn't even there. When I mentioned this, she said it's not her business who Rick sleeps with, but knowing him, he's probably sleeping around. My wife also said I didn't need access to her email anymore, asked me to log out and change the password. She's also coming to visit for Christmas for a week. TLDR, found what I feel like is pretty incriminating evidence that my wife may be cheating. Our recent history only adds to it. I really need advice. I don't know what to do. What are the chances she's cheating? What are the chances she's being honest? Should I still pursue moving overseas to her? I love her very much and want to believe she's being honest with me, but it's hard. Edit. Thanks for all the advice, guys. This is my first relationship, so I really wasn't sure what to expect or do. I know what I need to do. I was just really hoping for some small chance she was telling the truth because this sucks more than anything I've had to deal with before. I've looked at all your comments and will continue to do so. I will do what needs to be done.
OP, it is clear as day that she is having an affair. Cut your losses now. You are too young to deal with this bullshit coming from someone who doesn't even love you. Let her enjoy her independence with Rick. You deserve better. Also, go talk to a divorce lawyer, like right now. If you are near a base, you should be able to find one that is experienced with one spouse being in the service. The lawyer can probably tell you who to contact about the cheating with another married service member. Expose them, OP. Don't let these two openly disrespect you like that and get away with it. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.